Hey everyone, Cassandra and Kyle here, Kabuki Strength. Today we're talking hip internal rotation. Oftentimes we're spending so much time on hip external rotation. We need external rotation to open up our hips for the squat, for the sumo, even bench press, trying to get the leg drive in. A lot of exercises out there are focusing on external rotation alone. But hip internal rotation is still important and shouldn't be neglected. Why? Because hip internal rotation is actually required to reach below parallel in a squat. It's optimal for optimal running mechanics because of the hip extension and the internal rotation required for optimal hip extension, even just for walking. And it's even important for sports requiring different cutting movements, powerful and quick transitions. Example would be fighting, doing things like that. And why, if you're lacking hip internal rotation, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to see compensations at the lumbar spine, and you may even see compensations down the chain. So feet falling inward, knees falling inward in the squat. That's a common example. When people start seeing a lot of knee collapse, they immediately go to, I have to strengthen, which, yes, you do need to do that. But maybe there's other areas that you should be looking at, such as their hip mobility, not just external rotation, but also internal rotation as well. So we're going to share with you our favorite hip drills. First one is going to go into 90-90 hip transition. Okay. From here, Kyle's going to have nice upright spine. He's going to have optimal bracing mechanics because that's still important here. And he's just going to move through his external and internal rotation. He is not forcing himself, just trying to win over the drill and gain as much as he can. Because if he does that, he's twisting and moving through his spine. Okay, so his spine is the compensation. He's just twisting and moving his spine and not isolating the motion to his hips. Okay, so now Kyle, go ahead and brace since they have the camera or the view from your back. Okay. And only go in the range that you can with internal and external rotation, okay? Okay, and so you don't want to force this drill because it can be very uncomfortable. So a modification would be going to something to support yourself with. So go ahead and come over here. And just hold on, like put your hand right there.
While seated?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. And so focusing on maintaining optimal spinal mechanics and just isolating rotation through the hips. You can see that Kyle has some lacking hip range of motion, which he needs to work on. So this would be something that I would recommend to Kyle. Another one that I like to do is something that's very simple. It's just on your back in a dead bug position. Okay. We program dead bugs in a lot of our movement prep to just focus on bracing and also movement of the extremities while maintaining a braced position. But now we can also focus on external and internal rotation. So Kyle's going to brace, nice strong arms, okay? And all you're gonna do is just go into internal rotation. Okay? And again, since he's braced, he's not letting himself tilt through here. So go ahead and show them, go ahead and relax. Yeah, so he can go further if he starts bending here at the waist.
Braced.
Okay, so braced, that's all he's got. But you can see how now it's just isolated through his hip. All right, so there are many drills out there to focus on hip mobility. These two are two of our favorites, and we just wanted to highlight internal rotation. Who may need this? Maybe you've been trying to get to depth, and you haven't checked out your internal rotation. If that's the case, you probably have some muscle imbalances that you should also be addressing with some drills and just training the movement itself. Some people who tend to walk toe-out pattern and with very short steps, they may need to work on their hip internal rotation as well. Those are a couple examples. If you are finding that you do need to work on hip internal rotation, I highly recommend that you start doing some mobility drills, but of course follow it up with some exercise such as just loading the movement with your training or with specific hip drills. Because just because you work on mobility doesn't mean that your body knows how to control it and handle load through that range.
So keep in mind our painful and painless compensation patterns. We always talk about a range of spinal mechanics, right? We should have a range of internal, external rotation. I can hit depth pretty well in my squat right now. I don't feel like my internal rotation is getting in the way. However, the important thing to note is I've had some tight hips, some hip pain. It's all in my external rotators. Is the issue here or is the issue here? Maybe both, right? And I say that loosely. However, we talked at the beginning of this, a lot of people focus external rotation. Well, these are hurt, they hurt a little bit, they're tight, but I can get there. As soon as we address my internal rotation, you guys saw it, it's worse. So if I don't address this and don't realize it's an issue, the pain site might be somewhere else. Painful compensation, painless compensation pattern on the inside. So really important, you might find something out by doing these drills that you didn't know. There may not be a magic range of motion that you need, but if it's a lot more on one side or the other, or a lot more external versus internal, that range is probably getting pretty big. If we could dial that in and keep it a lot closer, we'd be in a lot better shape.